What is the feeling at Tampa in general with everything kind of swirling around about decoupling and is it going to affect Tampa and what's the feel that you're picking up on?
The feel is that there's almost a little bit of a, how do I put it? I don't want to say shock or anything like that. I mean, horse racing, obviously, anybody who's in horse racing knows that there are things that happen in this sport. There are decisions that are made that are just like, what? And now we've seen so many tracks that we never thought would close, like Arlington, right. And just things like this happening. Having been through it with my smaller track in Michigan with DRC closing, you start to go, oh, things that you never thought would go away because you've enjoyed it for your youth and it's just always been there going away. I don't want to say we should ever get used to it or anything like that. I think right now there's definitely a lot of desire to want to rally and figure out how to best get to Tallahassee and let them know that we cannot allow this to happen, that this is going to impact so many jobs. This is going to impact tourism, is going to impact, have a ripple effect that maybe the lawmakers aren't anticipating. And for me personally, I just kind of sit here in a little bit of shock because anybody who's been in this sport for even a small amount of time knows how important Santa Anita is and how important Gulfstream is. And, again, going more specifically to Gulfstream because we're talking about Florida in particular with the decoupling. To know what that could potentially lead to. And here we need to be stewards of these venues because they're beyond venues. They're not just these buildings in a business and you can sell it, you can do this, whatever you need. This is it's part of the fabric. If you rip out part of the fabric, everything unravels.
Right. And
there needs to be some level of care when you're involved owning, these tracks and whatnot of wanting to ensure that tapestry stays true and doesn't unravel because there's so many people depending upon it. I know Mike Deeney, he's really trying very hard to get the horsemen together to give them voice. He's looking to buy ad time. And whether it's on FanDuel or Naira or whatnot, just to get this message out about the decoupling issue and again what it could lead to. I do think that there are other entities within Florida that are invested in gambling that might be like, oh, well, you might want to do that, but we're not going to get out of your way, essentially, right? And so, I mean, to me, it's just one of these things I don't want to see happen. I saw somebody put something out that was actually kind of interesting about how there's all these really nice homes around the track there. And if you got a hold of their homeowners association and let them know what could potentially happen if that track goes away and there's some other major development going on, they might not want that. So that might get them on our side too, to say, hey, no,
right.
I just know that there's a lot of people feeling very uneasy about what the ramifications of this could be long term and how it could affect the entire state.
Yeah, I mean, I have a follow-up on that because, Tampa is one of the alternatives that's being floated if Gulfstream Park goes away. So it's a two-part question. Firstly, I think the most important part of having a track that's sustainable is having an owner that's interested and invested in racing. And to me, that clearly does not seem to be the case with Gulfstream and Santa Anita. I'm not too familiar with the ownership at Tampa Bay Downs. So if you could shed any light on that.
Oh, they love racing. They love racing. Oh, awesome. Yeah. This is... they own, they breed, they love horse racing there.
Perfect.
We are, it's like a family, and not just the family owns, but like the whole team. Right. And I really feel that there's such a long history there too, with Tampa Bay Downs. It, wasn't always called Tampa Bay Downs, but just the track itself being Babe Ruth went there. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? But
another 67-year-old reference, but that's all right.
I like to go old school. But I was talking to Mike Deeney, and he said that he thinks that we could, and not talking about with Gulfstream going away, but if there was some sort that we could. He thinks that the track and the turf course would stay nice up to like 8 months of racing over it. That it could take that type of beating, because we do have one of the most beautiful turf courses, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I obviously we don't want to ruin that. Right. But there is that. There are other people who are very concerned that if there's not Gulfstream, that we don't get the horses still, because a lot of the people are bringing their better horses down to Florida because Gulfstream's there, and then maybe they bounce some other ones up. But right. I don't know. There's a lot of different facets that go into this. There's a lot of different varying opinions in terms of what might be best in terms of preparing and having options and how we fit into that equation. But I think at the very end of the day, everybody's just sort of like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
The sands are shifting for sure. And
and I just had a quick follow up logistically. Like, you probably have to house a lot more horses if Tampa became like the year round home of Florida racing. Is like logistically, are there enough barns? Would they have to build more? What would that look like?
That's a question I really couldn't answer for myself. I've been backside few times, but I couldn't tell you how many barns there are right now off the top of my head. I would think that there would have to be some kind of expansion. Mm-hmm. And obviously that then shifts when you have that many horses. How do you then reschedule the work mornings and all that for traffic and flow and all that? I will say that I haven't spoken to any of the heads about this. Everything I'm telling you about feeling is, just based upon, just people around there at Tampa, not the officials. And I can only speak for myself when I say anything else regarding the situation. But there's just this feeling, a little bit of shell shock, a little bit of like, okay, we need to be prepared. And I don't know. What's your feeling, you guys? I mean, you were part of the Horsemen's Board there in Florida, John.
Yeah, there have been a lot of ship-in meets, especially recently, that have been very successful and have occurred. So even if Tampa decided they wanted to expand the number of dates that they had,
we did that during COVID,
right? And they were unable to build more barns. I think that there's land that is accessible that they could build more barns on. That being said, if they wanted to go with ship-in meet, I mean, you look at an example
Europe?
Like Kentucky Downs, Europe, where people are shipping in. You look at when we had the mini meet for Saratoga, people were stable there, but a lot of people shipped in. You look at the Breeders' Cup races. That's, there's a racing meet going on, but people are shipping in, literally plane loads of horses to run for that week or for that weekend. So it's not uncharted waters anymore. You mentioned COVID, which is when, which was really what birthed all of those ideas of being able to ship in. And the other thing with Florida is, as long as global warming doesn't affect the weather, there aren't too many places to race in the wintertime where people want to go. And there are so many training facilities, especially in Central Florida, in the Ocala area, Wellington area, Williston area, that would be able to house and train the horses, and you can ship in and race. I don't think that's an issue at all. I think a bigger concern for me would be that you mentioned the family and ownership. Stella's 83, 84 years old now. So and I believe she and a family member own it, her brother own it. And I don't know what their long-term goal is with Tampa Bay, other than let's just keep it open and keep it going because we enjoy it and because we're horsemen and women and we love the feeling that we have here. I don't know if they even have the appetite to expand if they were given the opportunity to expand. I
can't speak to that because I just don't know. I've never had the conversation, but from everything I've ever seen throughout my whole time working with them, and also being there as just a fan, I've just always got the feeling like they're true stewards. Right. And they understand the responsibility of owning this track and what it means to so many other people.
Which is the antithesis of First. I mean, it's a breath of fresh air, quite frankly, as far as, you know, the way that they want to work with the horsemen, the way that they, you know, roll up their sleeves and get things done, as opposed to kick things down the road or try to get the last dollar, you know, out of anybody.